Well, I used to keep my money in a cookie jar. It was shaped like a cat, it was a present from my brother. I read a lot of books, but I couldn't see between the lines. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind.
It's messed up again. All right, how about now, guys? Maybe now you'll be
How
able to
about
hear
now?
us.
Can y'all hear us? Can
That's
you hear us
funny.
now?
Yeah, sorry, Sean.
Sorry, can't hear you guys.
This is what we get for not having engineers working with us.
You are an engineer. What's going on?
They'll catch up. They haven't caught up yet.
Okay, no audio, gents.
Yes, they'll catch up. So, but at least they told us. That's why it's good to have people, because we might have done a whole stream with no audio if people hadn't
Yeah,
been
good
here.
thing I didn't start the story.
Yes,
You know,
he
right
didn't
now
start
they're
the
just
story.
watching me laugh at nothing.
Right.
Do we have audio yet?
Oh yeah, we do have audio. It's just yes.
You
He's
sure,
getting ready.
you're certain of it?
Well, I just saw Mark's thing popped up over here, and it should pop up in our window any minute saying you're good now.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it was
So,
buttons.
so little Richard passed away
Yeah.
a year ago this weekend. And I was reminded of a story when I was working on that movie Beyond the Groove, which I've talked about quite a bit on the show. The British made-for-television movie, and it was this was going to be shot in L.A. This part with Little Richard, and that was after the rap party in New Orleans, where I got drunk and made up the song about the gaffer sleeping with all the different girls that didn't know it, and fell down the stairs and gave myself alcohol poisoning, and didn't get to fly out with the rest of the crew, but somehow they wanted me to fly out anyway, even though I was clearly a hot mess. And that term didn't even exist back then. Anyway, so we get out to LA.
You were ahead of your time.
I was ahead of my time in so many ways, Mikey. And this could be the scene with Little Richard. And why does somebody always want to? It's Luis.
Yeah, Luis is trying to tell you he can't hear us.
He said the volume's not on now, but everybody else is saying the volume's on.
No, he's just late.
Okay. Anyway, so we get out to LA and we're going to shoot Little Richard in a church in East LA, which he has personally selected. He wants it to be this church because it's in the hood and he wants to help his people. So me and my friend Dickie Wentz arrive at like 4 o'clock in the morning to start setting up, and we hop out of the van. And Dickie had really long hair at the time, and he used to always wear a bandana in his hair, you know, hold it in place for work. And I think it was blue. And we hopped out of the van, and a cop walked right up to us and snatched it off his head hard and goes, "Wrong fucking neighborhood for that bandana, son." So they let us know early we're in the Bloods neighborhood and we better behave ourselves. And the cop says, "Listen, you start setting your stuff up. If a van starts rolling down the street really slow, just jump behind the cars, because that's what I'll be doing."
There you go.
Right. Professional advice.
Yes.
And so we set up, and part of the thing is Little Richard is going to be appearing with Billy Preston. And it's in this church that he selected, and he selected a 50-person children's gospel choir to back him up. He's handpicked them. So we send a limousine to pick up Richard at the Sunset Hyatt, which he lived for the last several years, if not decades, of his life. He lived in the penthouse there. And the limousine driver waits about a half hour for him. Meantime, of course, the equipment's getting delivered from the music company, and the scene in the church is being set. And there's the grand piano Richard demanded, and the electric piano for Billy Preston, because he didn't want them to sound too much alike. And the limousine waits about half an hour, and Richard comes downstairs, and he just stops in the lobby, and he grabs his heart, and he goes, "I couldn't possibly ride it in a black limousine. I'm going to need a white limousine, please." And he gets in the elevator, and he goes back upstairs. So, what are you going to do? It's Little Richard. You can't not get him a white limousine. So that takes an extra half hour, and they send the black one away. They bring the white one, and they wait another half hour, 45 minutes for him. And he comes down. He's happy. He gets in the white limo, and he comes to set. Now, by this time, he's probably already 45 minutes to an hour late because of the limousine fiasco. And on movies, every hour is a lot of money. You're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars an hour sometimes. So he gets there, and he walks into the church, and he sits down at the grand piano, and he hits a beautiful chord, and he goes, "Ooh, that is just thrilling, isn't it?" We go, "Yeah, it's thrilling, Richard." And he goes, "Well, let me try Billy's electric piano to see how that's going to sound." And he sits down, and he hits a chord on the electric piano, and he goes, "Ooh, that is electric. I can feel that in my whole body. You know what? I think I'd like an electric piano too." And he just walks away towards the dressing room, and we're all looking at each other like, "Oh my God, we got to move the grand piano and get the music company to bring out another electric piano. That's going to be, at least 2 to 3 hours of extra work." So we're falling behind schedule every time he opens his mouth. So he goes on to hair and makeup, and they tell me, "Paul, just stand by the door, and as soon as he's out of hair and makeup, let us know." So he's in there about an hour, and they say, "Man, what's taking so long?" And I knock, and his assistant, because he brought his own hair and makeup people, she comes to the door, and she says, "I'm sorry, but Richard's not ready." All right. Another half hour goes by, and they say, "Man, knock again." I knock, he's not ready. He's 2 hours in hair and makeup. And he comes out looking like Little Richard. He's got the perfect wig and the pancake makeup on, his little beauty mark. And he knows I've been waiting for him for almost 2 hours. And he goes, "I'm sorry to make you wait, but the Queen of England desired me in my youth, and I have to let her know I'm still beautiful." So once again, it's Little Richard and the Queen of England. You can't get in the middle of that. So we walk him to the church, and there's a 50-person gospel choir, all children, African-American children waiting. And the preacher, the pastor, knowing that he's been in hair and makeup for so long, walks up to him and he says, "Richard, perhaps we should get some makeup for the children." And Richard goes, "No, let the world see them in their beautiful natural blackness like the Lord intended." And he's literally wearing 2 hours worth of makeup, So it's just this wild scene. He's acting like everything you ever thought Little Richard was supposed to be. And he gets behind the piano, and they roll camera. There's no microphones. It's just him and a gospel choir and Billy Preston. And by this time, I forgot the part where he comes out of hair and makeup and asks for the grand piano to be brought back in. I forgot that part.
Of course he did.
Completely.
Of course.
At one point, he came out and said, "Oh, no, this won't do. We can't both be on electric piano." And he just walks back in the hair and makeup, and now we got to get the grand piano back in, which fortunately, the second AD, Alan Britton, didn't send away. Because by then, he saw that we were dealing with cray-cray, and he was like, "Just keep the grand piano here.
We'll have it over there in the corner. We might need it."
Oh, they put it back on the truck, but the set dressers were out there humping with the music people and getting it back in, So he sits down, and they play with no microphones and with this beautiful choir. And I'm telling you, Mikey, it's a moment I'll never forget. It was so beautiful. Little Richard deserves to be called a legend. I was watching, and he's singing louder than 50 people, and it's sending chills through me. banging the piano. They call cut. I got to see one take. And the second AD, Alan Breton, walks up to me and he says, get a van. I'm going over to craft service table. Meet me at the back. I'm like, what do you mean get a van? Little Richard just started. This is what I'm here for. I want to see Little Richard sing. And he goes, just get a fucking van and meet me outside. So I'm so bummed out I'm not going to get to see Little Richard. And I'm sitting in the van. And here comes Alan, and he's got a bunch of pints of milk. And he's got a bunch of bologna sandwiches. And I go, what's going on? He goes, Richard's decided he wants to feed the homeless when he comes out of the church. And we didn't hire extras to be homeless. And we don't have time to try and find extras to be homeless because the scene's going to be over in like 45 minutes. So you and me are going to go round up extras here in East LA and offer them milk and bologna sandwiches to be in a movie with Little Richard. And my head just sunk and my heart sunk. And I just thought, I don't know if I'm built for this, So we go driving around. It's dark. It's like, midnight. And we see an alley, and Alan goes, all right, there's some homeless people down that alley. Go off from sandwiches and milk. I'm like, all right, Alan, this is where it ends for me, man. You can fire me if you want to.
But I can't do this.
I'm not going to offer homeless people milk and sandwiches to be in a movie. And he goes, fuck it, I'll do it myself. He was a tough little guy from Boston, man. He'd seen way worse shit. He still is a tough guy from Boston. He grew up in an area of Boston where he got out with movies. Some of his friends are in prison. That's how tough his neighborhood was. So he's like looking at me like, you lame dick. He gets out and he goes and he hustles up about 6 homeless people and throws them in the back of the van. And now I feel like a little piece of my soul died, and we bring them back to the church, and they're going to make them wait for the bologna and milk because they're afraid to leave.
Yeah.
Right. They don't want them to leave. So Richard's just about wrapping up, and we're lighting up the outside of the church as quickly as we can because he's going to come out of the side door. He's going to feed the homeless. Then he's going to go to his limousine, which is at the other side door across the vestibule. So they're ready. They call action. The doors of the church burst open, and Richard comes out with a white flowing robe on, all dressed in white, and he's got a can of green peas in his hand. And he walks majestically up to the first homeless person he sees, and he hands him the can of peas, and then he bows, and he grabs his cape and spins, walks through the doors, and as the doors are still closing, you see him burst through the other doors, get into his limousine, and leave. And that was his homeless moment. That was it, man. We weren't going to get a second take at it.
No, what movie was this?
The movie is called Beyond the Groove. And if somebody can ever find it in England and get me a copy, I would love to see it.
Did that scene you just described actually make the movie? Like, lots of things get shot that don't make the movie.
I never saw the movie. I'm sure his scene made it. I don't know about the feeding the homeless scene.
Right, that's what I'm saying. You that's the part that cracks me up. You're out in the middle of the night. Could die, definitely dying inside, to go get homeless people to feed bologna.
Oh yeah,
the scene. It's not going to make the movie. It's just to placate Little Richard.
Just make the star happy, so he'll do the right. So he'll do what he got hired to do in the first place.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of those. And you love Little Richard, but at the same time, like you said, it's all the things that make Little Richard. Obviously crazy, but. So talented,
But on this movie, I got to meet a lot of famous people, and it was an amazing amount of craziness. Literally, one day I plan on writing a book about just that one film experience because it has to be.
A day in the life.
It is a single strangest experience of my life, and you're talking about a life filled with strange experiences.
Right. No, that's great. Actually, probably the safest thing you can do these days if you want to write something.
Bob Geldof in the swamps of Louisiana is, that story in itself is an entire chapter.
Oh man, did you ever see Get On Up with that guy who played Little Richard, the little skinny guy who played him?
You know who that is? Oh, Get On Up.
Yeah, the James Brown one.
You mean the James Brown movie? No, I didn't see
Oh my God, there's a guy who plays Little Richard that is so good. Oh, does he do him?
Shamar Allen is in that movie. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I knew he was in the band. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah,
to see
he's
him.
in the trumpet section.
Yeah.
A friend of mine who's a casting director had called me asking about New Orleans musicians, and I think I recommended Shamar and Calvin Johnson, a few guys I knew. And so Shamar calls me. He says, Uncle Paul, I got the part. I said, that's great. He goes, well, I don't know. They want me to shave my dreads. I said, for how much money? Dreads can grow back, man. How much money are we talking about? And he goes, I ain't shaving my dreads, Uncle Paul. And okay, how much money? I said, well, don't just write them off. Talk to them and see what they're willing to do for you. So he called me back and he's like, I got the part. I said, great. He goes, I'm going to be wearing an afro wig. So he showed me pictures and it was so cool to see Shamar with an afro, man. And,
Yeah.
and when I see the movie, I'll just crack up every time. That's Shamar Allen, man, blasting away in James Brown Band.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's
With
so
Chadwick Boseman. James Brown, ironically enough.
right. Who did a great job as James Brown. I saw it not long ago. It's on something right now. I can't remember, but
The kid was a great actor. He was just an amazing actor.
it's on one of the services. It might be Netflix. I don't know. It's on one of them right now. It's
Yeah, I was just talking to my friend Rick Gernhauser. He's a baseball fan, and he had seen the movie Jackie Robinson and didn't realize it was Chadwick Boseman.
oh, no kidding.
He's he's so chameleon-like. He really sort of becomes the role, you
Well, the
know.
funny part to me is I've been following him for a while, and he's the guy who kept playing all these historical figures. Like, if it was a historical figure movie, and he made jokes about it himself, it was like, Chadwick Boseman. Chadwick Boseman's going to do it, until Black Panther, which,
Now that's the joke in Hollywood, you know. It's uh,
he had been typecast sort of as the historical
well, how's it
figure.
go? Nobody knows who you are. Get me Chadwick Boseman. Get me somebody who looks like Chadwick Boseman. Get me the next Chadwick Boseman. You know,
Right, right, right. Yes, that's the progression, right?
or as Paul Simon once sang, "Every generation sends a new star up the pop charts."
Well, I was thinking about guys like Bruce Willis, right? So like now he's almost a trope at this point, his character has become, even he's bored. Like you can see that even he's bored with most of the time these days. But 20
Yeah,
years
I
ago,
haven't watched it in a while.
20 years ago he was great. Well, he was in everything, Pulp Fiction and all these other movies and all these touchstones, Die Hards. Like,
Yeah, he was. No, I was a fan. You know, of
yeah, he
course,
had
I
his
was a diehard,
moments. Yeah,
but he had some other good movies
yeah,
too.
that's what I'm saying.
He is
He
a
was.
good. I think they get to a stage in their, 50s and 60s. Like it's sort of like the movie business. You don't get first crack at the great stuff anymore, and so you take what you take to get paid, or you work less.
Or you do it like
Which
Newman and Redford did. You go find the roles you want to do and you produce them yourself.
well, I mean, you just named two of the largest actors
Right. Well, I'm just
of our
saying.
life.
Well, I'm thinking about
They were
guys
the
like that. The
actors.
next versions, like Bruce Willis, has been that kind of actor. He's been
I
in.
know, but what happened was like those two guys, Newman and Redford, were part of the studio system,
Right.
where studios nurtured and groomed actors and they became stars and they did what the studios told them. And they were the two guys to bust out of the studio system. And so they became iconic because they wanted to make art and the studio was holding them down. And so they both formed companies wherein they could make the kind of films they wanted without being told by the studio. The next generation were the guys who had that independent power from Jump Street. Because if you
Right.
made it big as a movie star, you had the power. You formed your own production company. The model has been set by Robert Redford Sundance and Paul Newman's company. And it was to get rich. you know, You'd
Well,
already made your art
interestingly
when you were
enough,
young.
Die Hard was originally written for Frank Sinatra, but it wasn't Die Hard. It's by this
Right. It
this
was
writer
that
who.
detective he was doing at the end.
Yes,
Right, I
but he
know.
had gotten too old for it, and eventually it just never happened. But it was somebody who had written one of his early movies. They based it off the
Right.
book, and
One of the
anyway,
last sort of series movies he was in, Sinatra was in, where he played an aging detective.
right,
And that's
right.
what Die Hard originally was supposed to be.
So the author wrote that
And
movie for him, wrote the book
yeah,
kind of for him, and then they turned it into a movie, and they offered it to everybody at the time. And Bruce Willis is
yeah,
just doing a little TV show, but
yeah,
his agent was so savvy that Bruce Willis got paid some ridiculous, at the time, I think it was 1985 or something. He got paid $5 million, which at the time was the biggest payday ever. And he's a TV actor. And somehow his
right, right,
agent had
right.
worked up this deal for him to get this huge amount of money. And then lucky for him, Die Hard was everybody. Alan Rickman was great in it. I mean, it
I
was
think that was one of his first American movies too,
I do. Yes,
and
I
he was
agree.
great.
And he was
And
just,
you know that
He's
and the look
iconic.
on his
He's
face.
like one of the top villains in, like, when you look at those best villains of all time kind of lists, he always makes the top 10.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, Hans Gruber is one of the greatest villains in film history.
Right. I guess that's my point. So, and, so McTiernan
You
was on
talk
his
to a huge
game.
Die Hard fan. I watch it every Christmas. It's the ultimate Christmas
It
movie.
is the ultimate. That's right. We keep calling it a Christmas movie. Only our generation does because the kids don't get it. They're like, oh, yeah, so they put up some Christmas lights. What does that mean? It's like, no, no, you don't. It came out. It was Christmas. Never mind. You don't
Never
get
mind.
it. Right. You weren't there.
That's pretty much my conversation with the younger generation in general.
It's just, never
Well, they're going to blow me off because I'm old anyway. So I figure I'll just beat them to the punch and blow them off because they're young. They hate that.
mind. They hate that. Well, we were talking about this before we came on the air. Just, I'd watched a few things, kind of got reminded a few things this weekend about how sometimes the wisdom of people who've been around a few times and seen a few things happen, because history does repeat itself constantly. It's just, you've been around long enough, you start to see it yourself. It actually starts to happen in your life, and you start to go, holy smokes, it
Yeah.
does just repeat itself over and over again. And you can start to
Yeah.
watch trends. And no, and there's a subtle swing of the pendulum that happens at the same time. So you have to
Hmm.
be aware that as much as things stay the same, they're still penduluming towards another area. And that's the thing that kind of, I guess, keeps
Well,
you.
that's the one constant in life, right? Is change.
Yes, right. So it's always moving back and forth. And it's just interesting. Problem is, it might take 10, 15 years for it to swing back. So you get a really long spell of crappy shit before things
Yeah,
start.
which isn't bad when you're young because
Right.
you're like, oh, this bullshit. And you're so busy complaining. And by the time you're done complaining, that pendulum's done. That was a good 12 years of, you know, Bush or whoever it was that you had to put up with. And now you're older and that pendulum's taking a long freaking time,
Well,
man.
because you're like going, how much
I
time
want
I
to
got
get
left?
back. I
I
get
don't have
back
that
to a
much
place
time.
where, we stop killing black people and white supremacists aren't loved by the president. Can I move back to that place a lot faster than we're moving?
Time's moving slow, man. Time's moving slow, but you know, or pandemics. How about that? Jesus Christ, we've been in this thing for. I
This is the longest year and a half of my life. Not
yes.
2020 is the longest year and a half ever.
I'll
We
be
should they
honest.
shouldn't even bother they shouldn't bother calling it 2021. It's
As
just
bad as Katrina was, which we all know if you're from down here or whatever, had friends from down here, you know how bad it was. But this pandemic,
you thought that was as bad as life could get. We really did. And you should never tempt worse.
no, you should never tempt
Whenever
fate.
you say shit can't get worse, worse just smiles. Says, I got something for you,
That
ass.
is something about being from New Orleans. You know the power of words. I have friends all the time that just blurt things out, and you're like, you had to say it. You had to say it because now we're all fucked now because you said it.
Well, John Boutte, man, John Boutte is real into the power of words. And I would say shit in front of him, and he'd be like, baby. I even writing songs with him. He would flat out say, I'm not singing that line,
Right.
because that it was like a song, maybe Foot of Canal Street had a reference to when maybe I was gonna get there sooner or something. But whatever it was, I remember him saying, no, baby, I ain't rushing myself to the Foot of Canal Street,
Right.
you know.
Right. It's like, yeah, we
And
ain't
he
going
believes in
there.
the power of words. He ain't invoking that shit.
Right.
So
No, yeah, no,
that's
that
cool.
words are interesting. I swear to God, people, it's weird as hell, right? And I used to notice this when I was driving when I was younger. Just something as
Well,
simple as
maybe
driving.
that's
When I had to get somewhere and I was in a rush and I was just everything bad happened. You caught every light, every jerk off jumped in front of you, people almost ran you off the road. It's just the way it was. But if I was like laissez-faire, like, you know what? I will get there when I get there and they'll be happy to see me. I didn't have nearly the problems just getting across town. And I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's as Ram Dass says, it's a flip of perspective. You know, he tells this wonderful story about when he was studying with his Maharashi in India, and he'd written the book "Be Here Now." By now, when he first went, he had them all to himself. He was the only American that knew about him. But then he wrote the book and attracted a bunch of other people. He's almost kicking himself for writing the book because now he's having a hard time getting his Maharashi's exclusive attention. And so the Maharashi had told him Ram Dass shouldn't touch money, which back then he said I took literally to mean I shouldn't touch money. Now I realize it means I shouldn't cling to the idea of money. Of course, this idea allows me to have a Volvo, which is much more convenient. And so he had gotten one of his fellow guru bhai, one of his brothers, to carry his money for him because they had to take a bus 3 miles from the hotel they were staying in to the temple where they studied with the Maharishi. Well, the Maharishi called him forward one day, and it's a big thing to get called forward. He doesn't spend a lot of time with his students. It's mostly, meditating and figuring it out on your own. He called him forward, and he's speaking in Hindi. He grabs his beard and he says, Ramdas, tell the truth. So he said, that day I walked away with what a liar I am. I sit around thinking, gotta tell the truth. I know I don't tell the truth all the time. And so the next day he called me forward. He goes, 2 days in a row. It's amazing. He called me forward. He grabs my beard and he said, Ramdas, love everyone. And I walked away and I was going, oh, well, love everyone. That's even hard. I mean, I sure don't love everyone. It's got to figure this one out. So he said he did this for a few days in a row. Tell the truth and love everyone. He said, finally, I realized I had to choose because I couldn't do both things. Because the truth was I didn't love everyone. And in fact, I realized that I had started to hate my fellow Guru Bhai, my brothers and sisters that were there to study, because they were stealing his attention away from me. They were stealing time I could have had with him. They were stealing his love. I got to hate them so much that one day I wouldn't even take the money to get on the bus from my Guru Bhai who was holding my money. So they all got on the bus and I walked through the woods 3 miles to the temple. They were going to be there in a half hour. It was going to take me 3 hours to get there because I had to go through hills and woods. And he says, by the time I came to the top of the hill, I looked down and they were all laughing at Maharashi's feet. And it seemed like he had spent much more time with them today than they ever had before. And I became enraged. I was livid, the kind of livid where your bones are shaking. And I walked down towards them and they were having lunch on leaf plates. And one of the Guru Bhai that I hated most walked up to me and he offered me a leaf plate full of lunch, and I took it and I threw it at him, which is the last thing you expect Ram Dass, And he said that Maharashi goes, Ram Dass, is something troubling you? And he goes, yes, Maharashi, I hate them and I hate myself. And he says, well, do you hate me? And he goes, it just broke me. I started crying and he gave me milk and he petted me and he said, Ram Dass, I told you to tell the truth and to love everyone. And he said, but Maharashi, the truth is I don't love everyone. And he said, Ram Dass, tell the truth and love everyone. And he goes, what he was trying to tell me was, once I got tired of being the person I had convinced myself I was, I would be free to love everyone. But I was still hung up on grudges and anger and all these things I had come to him to try and work out. It was really beautiful. Mm-hmm. I'm still hung up on grudges and shit. So I'm no Ram Dass. I got people that, I'd like to give my mind to.
Grudge has always been tough for me. I don't know. I'm just luckily, I guess I'm one of the lucky ones whose grudges has never really been something. It's more of a, I need to stay away from that person than a grudge.
That's what I mean by grudge. I don't hold grudges. I would never try and harm someone else's life.
Right.
But if somebody's been really mean to me, I try not to work with them again.
Right. It's just better
if
for
somebody's,
everybody.
Caused me pain or stolen from me. I don't want to tell people they did that, but I don't want to work with that energy again. I've already given my love and my trust to that energy and they hurt me. So no, I won't work with them again.
Yes.
That's not a grudge. That's just,
No, exactly. That was my thing. You said grudges. I didn't say grudges.
No, that's self-preservation is what that is.
Yes. But you said grudges. You were, but no, because Ram Dass said grudges.
I was being comedic. You're gonna hold me to my comedy now. You're gonna be like one of
would
PC to be funny with you?
But wait, I do understand the part about not really wanting to hang out with people because they annoy you, though. I mean, I do get that part.
Mostly, I don't want to hang out with people. I mean, you could have stopped there.
Right.
I'm good. I'm good. I hung out with people for all of my adult life. And every town we pulled into was a party waiting to hang out. And it was great fun. Love it. Glad I did it. I'm sitting here by myself, happy as can be.
Because it takes less energy, right?
Well, I am old, and it does take less energy.
I think that's probably half the story. It's like,
also the pandemic kind of taught me that it's okay to make allowances for the people you love, for your real friends, But life had gotten to a pretty speeded up place. And there were an awful lot of people getting close and sucking energy that were just sort of passing through the night kind of sucking energy. And that can be exhausting.
Yes, yes, I noticed that myself. But then,
Of course, the world has speeded right back up. I mean, traffic is everywhere again, and
oh my God.
social invitations are, you have to start watching because I say yes to way too many things, and then I'm tired because I'm an old dude.
Right, right. Well, somebody yesterday about, see, I know, right, like right now, you can't just like throw something on me and go, hey, come on down, because I'm like, I have to know about it in advance. And
Well, because I'm going to need a nap before first.
right, that's my point. So
You're
yes,
expecting me to hang out at any part of today. I don't care if it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, if it's 8 o'clock at night, whatever part of the day you're one, an hour or two of my time, give me a heads up so I get a nap in.
right. I got to get a little bit of a nap in, and then I can
Yes,
come
I want to
in
be sharp for you, man. I want to be ready for the hang. I
because
don't
I
want to
get up
sit
at
there
5
going,
in the
well,
morning, and by the time you reach
when's
out to
this
me
guy
at
going to
2,
be done talking?
but think about it, we get up at like 5:30 in the morning, 5 in the morning. So
I get
by
up at 5, yeah.
yeah, so by 1 or 2 o'clock, it's like that's a work day. You're like,
That's a
it's
work day.
so it's like, wait, you want me to go where? Wait, hold on,
Yeah.
I'm gonna. So I had that this yesterday. A friend sent me a bucket of crawfish or something. And said, "Come on over," and I'm like, "It was 2 o'clock." I'm like,
Yeah,
"I've been up since no, no.
right.
Thank you for the invitation. If you'd have told me yesterday, yeah, I probably would have.
Well,
But
that's a great old episode of Mad About You. Remember that show from the 90s with Paul Reiser and Helen Hunt, a married couple?
yes, I
Did you
love
ever
that
watch
show. Yeah,
It's an episode where it's just Saturday morning. That's how it starts. And you see him coming out in his pajamas. He's almost prancing. And he pops down on the couch and pops open the newspaper and kicks up his feet. And right at that moment, she walks in. She goes, "Honey, do you want to go to Bed Bath & Beyond with me?" And he goes, "It is the last thing I want to do. I want to sit here. I want to read my paper with my feet up on a Saturday." And she goes, "Oh, come on, honey. It'll only take a half hour." He folds the paper and he puts it down. He goes, "Let me explain something to you. Everything in life takes 4 hours." And of course, she talks him into going. And of course, it takes 4 hours.
of course. It takes half an hour to get there. You got to find a place to park. You got to get your energy right. Got to get what you got to get. Yeah, I can see it. I mean, they're in New York, 4 hours. For us, New Orleans, it's 2 hours. Everything takes 2 hours. Like you can't do anything.
At least,
Least,
at least.
Depends on how far you have to go.
I
If you're in the
mean,
neighborhood, it's 2 hours. If you got to go across town, yeah, then it's 3, 4 hours. But if you're in the
I
neighborhood,
had to go from River Ridge out to Gentilly to drop off a piece of plywood to my friend Mark Carroll. Then I had to go to Louisa Street to drop off recycled glass at Glass Half Full. And that was an awesome moment because here you are trying to be you're trying to be the person who cares enough to recycle their glass. You're with, and so everybody lining up at Glass Half Full on Louisa Street is people who care enough to recycle their glass. We're talking about,
care enough to stand in line to do it.
This is what I'm saying. I get out of the car, I pick up the first overstuffed paper bag, and I notice it's split right in the middle. Right when I stand up, I notice. And the bag just bursts open, and a half dozen bottles of wine, empty, but go into the street and explode into shattered glass. And literally everybody in line at Glass Half Full just turns around and looks to see who the asshole is that has just ruined the parking lot.
Yeah,
And
that's a
two of the
dangerous
guys,
place. Glass everywhere.
two of the guys come over and they help me pick up most of the glass. And I had a cousin there who's like, "You should have called me. We could have coordinated, and you wouldn't have broken any glass." And so I put my glass in there. Oh, everybody was really nice about it, and I'm just horribly embarrassed. And I get back to my car, and there's still broken wine bottles. I mean, I couldn't have pulled out without getting a flat tire. I had made such a mess of the parking lot. So I had to spend an extra half hour down on my hands and knees picking up shards of glass from
Everything
under my
takes 4
car.
hours.
Everything takes 4 hours. And that was River Ridge to the Gentilly for the plywood, to Glass Half Full to recycle, into my brother's to get some flats to move furniture out of my den because we're redoing the floors. By the time I got home, I'd say it was a good almost 3 hours. So it defied New Orleans 2 hoursness.
So this scenario for me happens to me. This happens to me once about every 3 months. I'll make just a cup of coffee because we've already had some coffee that day, and I don't want to make another pot. I just want to make a cup. So I make myself a cup. I fix it up nice, put my cream and my sugar in it, taste it. It's good. Get it all going. I'm all happy or whatever like that. I got my stuff in my hand. I'm going to go back in work, and I grab my cup of coffee, and I turn around, and my coffee cup hits the door jamb, and coffee shoots up in the air, gets all over my arm, hot coffee, all over my arm. I do like that because it's hot coffee on your arm. It lands on everything on the floor. And then that cup of coffee costs me a half hour cleaning up because I can't just leave it. I have a wife. If I leave it, I'll never hear the end of it. So,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean,
Did I mention that we're getting the floors in the living room redone?
yes, you did.
When I moved in here just a few short years ago, he had a pristine tan carpet. And in just a few short years, I have managed to spill red wine, white wine, beer, coffee, tea. And then yesterday, for Mother's Day, her sons came by and helped us pull up the rug so we can get the floors redone. So now it's down to a concrete floor, and we're sitting there, and she's on the sofa, and I'm on the chair, and I'm having a glass of cranberry juice. And I go to get up, and of course, my knee hits the table, and the juice goes on the floor, and the concrete is covered in red. And she goes, and that's why we're getting the floors redone.
So what are y'all putting down? I hope wood, like fake wood or something.
No, man, we're getting the concrete sanded and shined and
Nice.
sealed. And
There
we
you
got
go.
concrete floor.
Have you ever seen those ones where they do the paint the pictures and it looks like you're underwater, like it's underwater and stuff like that under there? Oh my God, those things
Yeah, I
look
know
cool.
that we were offered all kinds of options, and we may even do a little snowdrift option that I liked.
Yeah.
But well, I've stayed in it. We've stayed in a couple of bed and breakfasts in the last couple of years, well, before the pandemic, that had concrete floors, and each time I was like, man, I want to have this. This is awesome.
Right.
You know, it's so sort of organic and practical, and I don't know. I just loved it every time. And then after living with me for a couple of years and watching me just live like a wild charging bull and knocking shit over left and right. In fact, that's not the only shit I spilled. That was like the liquids I spilled. Then this winter, I'm playing with the fire, and I hit a log too hard to try and turn it over, and the log pops out onto the floor. And before I can get to it, it burns a gaping hole in the carpet,
Remember
which
that.
I've covered up with a little Mexican blanket I bought. It's like, oh, this is nice. You bought a blanket that kind of adds a little to this area. I'm like, yeah, I wanted to kind of dress it up, you know. I wanted to wait a few days to show her the burn mark, you know. And then I have a little puja table for my altar, you know, and I'm meditating one morning, and I go to move one of the candles, and it was hotter than I thought, and I knock it over, break the glass, and it spews glass and wax right onto the carpet, which of course dries faster than I can possibly get the wax out. I'm pulling up shards of carpet to try and get the wax out, you know. Yeah, it's
A couple weeks ago, I was like trying to be all. I was, you know, it was one of those mornings, and I was just kind of like, it was one of my mornings where I was like, "Meow, meow, 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 meow." And so, you know, I don't remember what it was, but my wife was like getting on me about because I'd left some dishes, which is fair, you know. I'd left a lot of dishes. I think, like, you know, and you know, she's like, I don't live to do this for you, you know, and you know, you can clean up some of your own dishes. And I'm like, I know. And so she went outside, and I was like, you know, talking to myself in the kitchen. God, I do stuff too sometimes. I don't know, you know. And then so I grabbed the cupboard and I slam it, thinking that I'm gonna, you know, get my point across. Everything on top of it shook and fell off. Broke,
oh no,
broke several things that I wish I wouldn't have broke.
oh my God,
So
of
I'm
course
like,
you did, dude.
all right. So that's what I get. Once again, negative energy. You start holding on to it,
There you
carry it
go.
around. You know, try to express your negative energy, and what happens? You get more negative energy. It's
Right. Carrying around anger for someone else is like drinking your own poison.
and the funny thing was, it was just one of those cranky mornings of, you know, it's like you need to get a hold of those cranky mornings, son. Get your coffee in earlier.
Yeah, I don't have, you know,
I'm
Allison
mostly a
likes to be
morning
like,
person.
oh,
Mostly I like mornings, but sometimes, you know,
she's good after the first half hour, but she really needs that first half hour of not talking and having a little coffee. Not even a half hour, like 20 minutes. She's like sort of like a zombie. She'll stare off into the garden with her coffee in her hand, just trying to come awake, you know. Whereas me, I hop out of bed at 5 a.m. and I'm doing push-ups and sit-ups and lighting candles, and you know, I'm up, man.
right?
I'm up. Somebody plugged in the you know, electric, what's the Energizer Bunny.
It's funny because I have nothing but girls in my family, and all the girls in the family need that. Like, you can't just be when they wake up, you can't be like, "Ah, how you doing? You want some eggs? You want some?" No, no, no.
No,
Whoa,
they don't want that.
no, 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 no.
Whoa, whoa,
Whoa,
whoa, slow
slow
down,
down.
Tiger, slow down.
Yeah, I need a minute.
Well, plus, coupled with the fact that by the time she wakes up, I've been up for a good hour, hour and a half
That's the other
sometimes,
thing,
So
right? A lot of times you're already
charging,
up.
charging about the house. I'm, exercised and meditated, and I'm ready to be me.
Right. So this weekend I saw some movies about Boston. We were talking about that. We figured Shmoo would know about all of these big Boston movies,
Yeah,
probably.
well, I have a lot of Boston friends. My friend Stevie Brennan, I've stayed with many times up there, and Cowboy Mouth obviously played Boston a bunch, and I've stayed up there with the Brennan family off and on over the years. I really love that town.
Me too.
It reminds me a lot of New Orleans in that it's got that working class attitude. It's a town of working people
With a
near the
lot of old
water,
money. With a lot of old money mixed in.
with a lot of old money and a lot of well, the Irish immigrants, which I grew up in Irish Channel, and all that stuff is all it's all enough to make it familiar.
Right.
Although when I first went up there, it was in 1989 to work on that show Against the Law. It was the second television show ever on the Fox network. It
Wow.
lasted, I think, 3.5 seasons. I think they canceled it in the middle. I mean, 3.5 shows. They canceled it in the middle of the fourth show, I think, and screen just went black. And they said, "We're really sorry. We got this thing called The Simpsons we're working on. We'll get back to you." But I was living up there, and it was great. I met friends that I'm still friends with. That was 1989. There's really great people. Now, the accent is fun. Like going out for beers with my friend Steve Brennan and my friend Rob Morgan. And Rob lived on Martha's Vineyard, which I'd never been to, but, knowing the Kennedy story and all that stuff, at Martha's Vineyard and James Taylor, I figured it was all, wealthy people. So I was like, Robbie, you come from money? And he goes, "Oh, no, no, Paulie, I don't have any money. I was born there, but my father's a harbor master." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool. What's he do?" And he goes, they all three, the Irish guys, they're from Boston. They look at me and he goes, "He's the harbor master, Paul." I'm like, "He's the harbor master. That's awesome. Is that like a family lineage thing? I don't even understand. What does he do?" And they go, "He guards. You don't have a harbor master in New Orleans at the marina?" And I went, "Oh, a harbor master. I understand what you're saying. He's a harbor master." So that
Right.
was 1989, and since then, I know when I go visit my friend, my friend Steve's father passed away just recently, and he was a beautiful guy. He loved my music. He would come to nightclubs to see me play, well into his 70s, and probably even in his 80s, he might have made it out to a show. But anyway, so Steve's like, just drive to my dad's house in Arlington. And he gave me directions and stuff. And I called him. He said, "You okay?" I said, "I parked my car in the front yard of my best friend's house in Arlington. How's that?" He said, "Fuck you."
You ever actually try to drive in Boston yourself? Like, or do you have people drive you around?
I got to say, back in the days when the band was driving, I had a chip on my shoulder most of my life. My father died when I was 5, and me and God started fighting, and we ain't resolved things yet. And I took the fight to the things he loved most, the people of the world. I was fighting with everybody. If God loves you, then I'm going to fight you, man. So I was an aggressive driver, and we would get to New York City, and whoever was driving would literally pull over as soon as we got out of the tunnel, and they go, "You're up, Paul." Because I'd be sticking the nose of that car in front of the guy. "Hit me, motherfucker. I don't care. You got a nicer car than me. I'm getting us through midtown traffic like a just anger and jerking. But Boston is different because they're just as pissed off at you.
Yeah.
Like you try and do that shit in Boston, try and throw your car in front of them. They're like, "Oh yeah, motherfucker, boom, take you down."
Nope. It's like taking your life in your hands. Driving in
Yeah,
Boston.
they're not
It's like,
fancy Joes there, man. They're tough guys.
and we think we got it in New Orleans. You drive around New Orleans, and yeah, there's a few idiots that are running around with going 150 miles an hour behind you while you're trying to get off the interstate. I get it, but that's not like Boston.
No,
Yeah,
no, no. They're all going fast.
and not only
You
that,
know,
the car is an extension. It's a weapon. The car is not really a
there's
car.
there's a 75-year-old grandmother passing you, flipping you off.
Right. Yes. Yeah, they don't have really a slow lane there. It doesn't
No,
seem.
they like taking it to the streets,
The other
man.
thing that's funny is you don't really have any room to merge. Like all of a sudden you
It
just
is tight streets. Yeah, it's
it's like,
tight.
wait a second. I mean, I got
Well,
to get up to.
She moves defending herself. What's she saying?
She says driving in Boston is a thing. New York City is at least nicely laid out.
That's true. There you go. Somebody from the area telling you the truth. Because downtown Boston, I mean, the legend is that the Beacon Hill area was laid out by cow paths. And if you ever go there, that makes complete sense. I don't know if it's true, but it is the craziest winding street that you ever wanted to try and negotiate in a big movie truck.
Right. DC's weird too, right? I mean, I've been in. It's just a big circle, concentric circles heading sort of in town. But it
Yeah,
was
well, they did that that's on
right.
purpose.
Right. They wanted it was keep them from
Make it
easily
harder
marching
for
to the capital, but
yeah.
it still
It's
is
still no
interesting.
fun.
No,
It's
no.
it's one of the least fun places to drive through is Washington D.C. Unless it's late at night because they do shut down early. So if you can make it through there at like 2 in the morning, go ahead and see the Lincoln Memorial, drive past all the beautiful
kidding.
sites,
It's
and
a
then
fucking
get the
ghost
fuck
town
out of there.
after 2 in the. I mean, like it is a ghost town. We were walking.
Oh, I've done it many times, man. Well, especially when we used to play there, after a gig, I'd go ahead and throw on some rollerblades. Or if Griff had his fold-up bike, we'd jump on fold-up bikes and we'd go and see the monuments at night. You had them to yourself. It was awesome.
Mark just said the streets in Boston are old cow paths. Insanity in intersections with 6, 7, and 8 corners. Like in Atlanta, they have the
Yes.
5 points, which is famous in the South. Every other road has like 7 or 8 freaking like spokes.
Yeah, I know it's and I've gotten lost down there before, especially when I first started going there. My brother Johnny lived up there for a while, and that helped. I could always call him and ask him where the hell am I. But yeah, it's not laid out like a grid.
Yes, that's what I noticed too. Shamu's talking about the fact that there's no merge lanes. Like you have to be up to 55 miles an hour. Like, it's like the Autobahn. You have to be up to 55 miles an hour from coming from a dead stop. All of a sudden, it's like you
It's
got
right. It's thoroughly frightening.
yeah, you
It's
got
thoroughly
30
frightening.
feet, and you're looking back,
waiting,
trying to see.
and then people are getting pissed at you for not going. Like the people behind you are like, go, go, go. And you're like, everybody's trying to kill me.
Because you're looking out and it's goes boom, boom,
Boom,
whoa.
boom, boom. There's no merge. It's like, does my car have enough pickup to not get rear-ended when I get out there?
And the funny thing is that those people in Boston know you're going to pull out in front of them. They're ready
They
for
can't-
it, but we don't.
They
We're just
fucking can't wait. They're just staring you too.
they're gonna scare you. They're not gonna hit you, but they're gonna scare the living shit out of you. They're gonna wait
Oh,
the
yeah.
last second.
And then they're going to turn to each other and go, did you see him? He was scared. That was really cool.
That's right. We scared the hell out of. He's not from around here. We scared the shit out of him.
Pick up your skirt, you Mary. What do you want, a cup of crybaby soup?
One of my favorite comedians has got that whole Boston Irish thing going. He cracks me up. And I can't remember his name right now, but go to the
Like
other
a
Trader
blonde-haired
Joe's.
guy.
It's kind of red. It used to be red haired. Now he's doing bald. But he's always talking about this. Really, he's so Gen X. He's always talking about this. It's always some kind of thing about we got too many people on this planet. We got to figure out ways to get rid of them. Half of them are idiots anyway. And oh my God,
The problem is the idiots are the ones with the guns.
oh my gosh, yeah. Well, he had other plans. It wasn't so much going out and shooting everybody. He was like all about COVID. He's like, what are we doing? Why are we trying to get vaccines? Let him go. What the hell are we up to? We out of our
Well,
minds?
it's right at the beginning of COVID. I'm a big fan of the Dan Brown books. The Da Vinci
Right.
Code and Angels and Demons. And I thought Ron Howard did a really good job with the movies, and I watched both of those movies.
Well,
I
see, there was
didn't know that-
Inferno, right? There was Inferno.
Didn't know that until the pandemic. And so I turned it on going, oh, good, another Dan Brown book in the series. And then it's about infectious disease, which I'm like, oh, can't watch this one when Allison's home. She will flip. So it took me a few days to get through it. I had to kind of sneak watching it, but kind of frightening and kind of right. Oh, that's great. We both got flash flood warnings. That's awesome. Is
Yeah,
that
at
flash
the
flood
same
or
time.
tornado?
Well, at least we know they're consistent. If I could make it stop, that would be awesome. Oh, there you go.
I turned my sound off on my phone. That's why you didn't hear mine go off. Whenever we do the show, I turn the sound off.
I do half the
Um,
time. Have to come.
The only reason I actually keep it in front of me is to make sure I know that we've done the time and we're going to end the show. Last week when we were doing it, Steve Walters, because he's on a totally different time zone, living out in Colorado, he started texting me, and I'm giving him like one-word answers, trying not to seem rude, but his texts keep getting longer and longer. Steve, if you don't know, Steve was the original bass player for Cowboy Mouth, and he was in for a long time, and he's one of the most talkative people I ever knew, and he's one of the funniest people I ever knew, and one of my best friends. So I didn't want to seem like a dick, like I'm giving one-word answers to these really long texts. So I go, Steve, we're on the air. I'll call you when it's over. I can't text now. And he goes, okay, sorry. And then he just continues to text me.
Oh man.
But it
Oh wait.
turns out it was good news. He was texting to let me know he's getting married.
Oh, is he?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes.
When I talked to him, he said he's off the grid and all kinds of other stuff. I was like,
It's amazing. He's talked about this since he was in the normals back in the 70s. His whole dream in life was to get off the grid. So after he left Cowboy Mouth, he worked for a long time as a scenic painter on film. So he had union benefits and he got retirement and the whole deal. And he bought land in Colorado, southwestern corner, away from all the tourists. He's 12 miles from the nearest town. He has his own solar power. He has his own well for water. He grows his own vegetables. He has chickens to lay eggs and all that stuff. I think he told me he has got like two bills, $12 for a cell phone and $99 for internet. And he's as happy as can be, man. He always wanted to be away from people and off the grid, and there he is.
is he growing his own food and everything?
Yeah.
No
Yeah, he
kidding.
really is. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's a hard life.
Yeah. It's not for everybody, but Steve's a really hardy guy. He's not afraid of hard work. He's not afraid of the weather. He'll dress for it. He'll work through it. He's a working class guy. He was raised by people who believed in hard work, and he's always believed in hard work, and it's something he dreamt of,
Yeah.
and he's living it. That's
I
awesome.
couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't be
No, no,
happier
no.
for
I
him.
like I like my giant picture windows and my central AC and central heat and my albums and my guitars, and I want
Yeah.
everything convenient.
Yeah, I'm generally pretty happy with my setup as well. So,
A coffee shop that's close, a place to get something to eat that's close. Everything. I just like. And it's life's going by so quickly, Mike. I don't want to waste time.
I have a Ninja. That's why, I have a Ninja coffee maker because I don't want to waste time. That's why I got the
Did I ever
Ninja.
tell you that I met an actual ninja once?
A
Here you
real life
go.
Japanese ninja.
The same. No, this was the Kiss Before Dying movie with Matt Dillon and Sean Young when I was working. And I told you about the hookers and the rats and the police trying to arrest me. Well, this time we were working from like midnight till dawn at a hospital. And I was stationed on the emergency ramp to keep people from walking up because Matt was just inside the emergency room. And that's where they were filming. And so it was me and the security guard, but it's like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. There's nobody coming up. I mean, even the fans didn't know we were there, I mean, there were other places where people did try and, hey, Matt, hey, Matt, hey, Matt. But at 4 in the morning outside of a hospital, there was nobody. So I had a pretty easy job that night. I found out later that the hospital I was at was Roosevelt Hospital, and the emergency room entrance I was at was where John Lennon was taken when he was shot and dying. So I'm glad I didn't know that night because it would have, I don't know that I could have even handled being there. I would have been filled with all kinds of emotion, but I didn't know. And so I'm at the emergency entrance for hours with the security guard. And about 4 in the morning, this real heavy set guy, real round guy walks up to us and it's summertime and he's wearing a big heavy jacket. And he's got one of those old fashioned motorcycle helmets on, that kind of go around like that. And he's got two like coat hangers coming off the helmet and pink sunglasses with thunderbolts on them, 4 in the morning. And he walks up to us with this big smile on his face and he says, excuse me, can you tell me where the emergency room entrance is? And the security guard just kind of raises his eyebrow and he points to the emergency room sign. And the guy, oblivious, just smiles and goes, you see, I'm a ninja warrior and I've been injured in battle. And the security guard goes, oh, you're a ninja. Well, then what you want to do is go to the elevators and go right to the 5th floor. That's where we take care of all the ninjas. He goes, thank you very much. And he walks in and the guy turns to me and goes, I just sent them straight to psych.
Nice. I watched this making of thing this weekend. There's a guy who went to Hollywood. So when they did Saving Private Ryan, all of those stars, the cast of whatever, 8 of them, the main 8, all had to go to boot camp with this colonel who went to Hollywood because he was sick of seeing all of these movies with soldiers who just didn't get it. He felt like he wanted
Right.
the one thing he was going to do is going to go there and let them understand. So they put him through boot camp, wear him out, basically destroy him. I mean, literally, they're doing like 3 hours sleep. They're marching and doing shit till 2 in the morning. Next morning, 5 a.m., they're up again. They're sleeping on the ground. They're intense, just for 6 days. Now, these actors are like, oh my God, for 6 days, I can't believe, for them, it's like, it's not even, boot camp is what, 8 times longer than that or whatever for real soldiers. But anyway, the whole idea is to break him down so they can carry that into the role. But this guy was just too much, man. They showed some scenes of him messing with him, and he's like, I can only go so far because of insurance, but I try to go as far as I possibly can. And it was just hilarious watching some of these actors.
Crazy.
Be subjected to this thing. It just kind of cracked me up.
Well, I'm sure you know the famous story about the movie Marathon Man, a movie made in the 70s with Dustin Hoffman, where Roy Scheider is his brother who is a spy, and Dustin Hoffman doesn't know it. He's an innocent law student. And Roy Scheider's involved with these ex-Nazis who are trying to track down some diamonds in the New York district, a diamond district in New York. And Hoffman literally, he's one of his first roles. He's young and he's a marathon man. He's always running. And so Sir Laurence Olivier plays the Nazi who's trying to track down the diamonds. And he is a ruthless killer. So he has captured Dustin Hoffman. He's killed his brother. He's convinced that Dustin Hoffman knows what he needs to know. And the only question he will ask him is it safe? He means, is it safe for him to leave with the diamonds or whatever? But Dustin Hoffman doesn't know what the fuck's going on. And they've strapped him into a chair, and he breaks out dental tools. And he's going to drill holes in his teeth until he answers him. And then so Dustin Hoffman's like, he goes, is it safe? And he sees the drill, and at first he's like, yeah, it's completely safe. Whatever you need to do, it's safe, it's safe, it's safe. And they drill a hole in his teeth. And it's not the right answer, Is it safe? No, it's not safe. It's not safe at all. And then they drill again because it's not a yes or no thing. He needs to know a code answer, and he doesn't know it. So by now it's like hours later, and he's sweating, and he's got holes in his teeth, and he's in pain. It's a brilliant scene. So to prepare for the scene, Dustin Hoffman is a method actor. So he went without sleep for 2 days before, so he would be just out of it, and like he was tortured. The upshot of it was that he was having a hard time remembering his lines, and the scene took a really long time to film. And legend has it that when it was over, Laurence Olivier goes, "Next time, try acting, dear boy."
Nice. Wow. Yes. Well, it's funny. Jared Leto's gotten in trouble too for going too far, right? For taking the method thing a few times. Yeah. When he did the Joker, apparently he was sending dead rats to Will Smith and stuff like that, trying to get into character. There was a lot of stories of stuff that he did that was just foul on that set, but trying to, become the Joker. And then his role in Blade Runner 2049 was also just a little more ghoulish, I think, than...
Since you brought it up, Blade Runner 2049.
It's pretty.
It's just...
But
it's so pretty.
Yes,
but it's literally proof that longer is not better.
No, I know.
That movie could have done with some old-fashioned editing, and it might have been an interesting film. It could have been. The first one was great, but like movies used to be 80 to 90 minutes long, and now it's like if they're not 3.5 hours, they're not considered blockbusters. I don't know what the hell, man. I can't sit through. And I love Blade Runner, and like you said, it's really pretty, but.
Villeneuve is interesting. I'm wondering about his Dune because he's for one thing his stuff's beautiful, right? He uses Roger Deakins. All the stuff is just gorgeous. Sicario, Arrival. I mean, like he goes with themes and he sets things up, and he's a smart director. He's got good scripts, but yeah, 2049 was just so overblown. There's just these moments. You spend 5 minutes walking with the guy to get to where he's going, and it's like, okay, yeah, I get it. All right, it's cool. It's orange. It's weird. I get it. Why do I have to be with him for 5 minutes? Can't we jump in?
It took forever. It took forever for scenes to get to the point.
Yes.
Yes, give me a flash of it. So that the flash of it makes it feel more surreal than the 5 minutes of it soaking in.
M. Night.
5 minutes of it soaking in, it becomes reality.
M. Night started doing that too much. right? M.
Yeah.
Night, his stuff started to get where it worked great in Sixth Sense, you
Yeah.
know, as it kept going, some of them,
Signs, it worked great. I thought
right.
it was great in Signs. But yeah, you know, whatever,
I know,
whatever.
I know. I mean,
We don't know. What the hell do we know, Mikey?
well, we know what we like, but I think we're okay to sit here and it's shit to talk about, right? And some of
Especially
these,
at the end of the show, because we're out of time, my friend. We're after 10.
look at that, we're out to 10. We did it. Wow, who knew?
I think we even started on time today, did we?
I feel like we did. I feel like, but well,
That might
does it
be
count though? Because there was no audio, so
well, I hope the people that are listening don't get their expectations up and expect us to start on time every day. Because it's not
yeah,
going to happen.
it's not gonna. And we have a
I
guest on.
think yes, Wednesday we're going to have my dear friend, founder and former head honcho of Threadhead Records, Chris Joseph, whose not-for-profit record label helped over 60 artists release music after Katrina, people who lost their things in Katrina, like myself. And he and his people, the Threadheads, have had a profound effect on the lives of New Orleans musicians, and the Threadhead Foundation still does, as they give out grants to artists of all kinds. 5 years ago, Chris was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and he had two sons he wanted to see graduate high school and go into adulthood, and he determined that the American way was not for him. He found another path. He is healthy, and he's written a book about it. His journey to wholeness and wellness is called Life is a Ride, which is a song he co-wrote with me and Alex McMurray for my album, Life is a Ride. He's one of my best friends in the world, and his book is already changing people's lives. I can't wait to have him on, have a few laughs with him, and also hear about his journey.
Same
Talk
here.
about his book.
Talk about his book. Absolutely. He sent me a copy, and man, I didn't have any idea. Some of the everybody's got their journey, right? And
Yeah, don't we all?
don't we all? So it's interesting to see other people's journeys and what they picked up from it. I'm always feel like I'm learning from my journey as well.
Absolutely. Same here. I just talking to Steve last week. He didn't know about all of my vocal issues, and he was really sad for me. And it kind of brought me back to the beginning of my journey when my voice was gone completely. And I remember I let Sonia and her wife Connie come by, and they visited, but Sonia almost cried hearing my voice, and it hurt me so much to see how sad my illness made them that I just stopped letting people come by. And once I could start talking a little bit again, I was okay to see people again. But I couldn't see that sadness. It wasn't pity, but it was definitely sadness. And I didn't want to hurt the people that loved me by letting them see how far down things had gotten. I did that Wright Brothers show a couple of weeks ago, and I really tried to do it thinking, I don't have to sing that much. It's the Wright Brothers. But my voice started going about midway through the second set. I could hear it. I don't know how many other people heard it, but one of my oldest friends was there, and he lived nearby, and I walked him home, and first thing he said was, "So was your voice okay in the first set?" And that hurt, because he could tell. He knew I was just making it through. So, you got to, everybody has their story, as you say. You have your story, I have mine, Chris has his.
And if you think about it, your songwriting was always just ways for you to express your story. And as long as you have ways to tell your story, I think that it'll keep you, more than halfway whole, at least. That's what we're all looking for.
This show was a great gift you gave me. It was your idea to have some laughs, but also your idea to keep me being creative, and I appreciate it. And hopefully it's already helped me to talk with more ease. I still have some glitches there, but it's helped me to talk with more ease. And I'm hoping to return to singing someday. I've tried a few times, and I found a neurologist from Philadelphia who gave me a diagnosis and a treatment plan. I just can't find a doctor at Ochsner to do the same. There's a guy in Baton Rouge that helped a lawyer friend of mine. I'm trying to get a referral to see him, but that referral has to come from my Ochsner doctor. So I may have to wind up switching providers just so I can get treatment. We'll see. And just try to keep a good attitude. And
HMOs,
you know the deal.
Evil.
You know the deal.
What was that line from As Good as It Gets? Piece of shit lying HMOs, and he Harold Ramis goes, I think that's their actual title.
I didn't know that line, but I like that line.
I think he says I think that's their actual title. He's playing the doctor. It's a great line from that movie.
All right.
But I was just thinking,
Well, all right,
man,
Mikey. We'll
real
see
quick
you
before we
on,
go, I was just thinking,
yes.
think about, and I know you've got a perspective now because your mind is just as quick as it's always been. Your only problem is the thing that gets it from there back out again, and lots of different people have issues like that. And from what I even it just I don't know. It's like, wow, that perspective. I just wonder if maybe there's something inside of there, right? I mean, that's
Well, I mean, the whole last 3 years of my life has been nothing but perspective giving. I mean, I've had this scar where I almost died. It was emergency surgery. Then I have a scar on this side where they went into my spine and moved my vocal cords and larynx aside to put in a plate in the back of my neck. So I couldn't even talk for 9
is that where
months.
the vocal dysplasia comes from them moving it and you're having to relearn how to use it?
According to the specialist, it comes from emotional trauma, physical trauma, exhaustion, and overuse. And I would say that all those things happened to me within the last few years. But the exhaustion part's my own fault, and the overuse part's my own fault. But when my ex ghosted on me, I just went on the Anywhere But Home tour.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed on it until my body fell apart. And my body fell apart, found a new home, and here I am.
And now you take naps.
Yeah, I take naps. I'm trying to put Humpty Dumpty back together again.
Yeah, no, I think naps are good. Anybody not a fan of naps, just pipe in because no, naps are good.
Whoever's not a fan of naps is against Albert Einstein.
Oh, he was a
Because
fan.
Albert Einstein, big fan of naps. So if you consider yourself smarter than one of the smartest men alive, then more power to you.
That's right. Plus, one of the more creative thing, when you're dealing with creative stuff, is a friend of mine told me a long time ago. Keith Keller said, if you're tired, you do better just go and catch a little bit of rest, come back and hit it when you're fresh. Just you get a lot more done in less time. Because if you're doing it when you're tired, you're going to miss something and you're going to screw something up. So
You have to redo it. You have to
now,
redo it.
I do know that a lot of people can't. But when you're dealing with stuff that's going to last for a long time, people start. Yeah, naps rule. Yes, you're right.
Freddie Blues. Naps rule.
Yes, they do.
All right, buddy.
All right, man. It's been fun hanging out with you today.
I'm going to go take a nap. I'm going to see you on Wednesday.
That's right. I'm going to go have another cup of coffee, then take a nap because I can do that, which is crazy.
That's right. You can do that.
I can. I can take a nap
buddy.
right after I had a cup of coffee. I don't know how, but it's easy.
God bless you. That's a beautiful thing. I know people that would be envious of that.
Well, all right. We're going to hear some music. You guys enjoy. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Yes, indeed.
Well, I used to keep my money in a cookie jar. It was shaped like a cat, it was a present from my brother. I read a lot of books, but I couldn't see between the lines. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. Well, her hair is as black as an alleyway, and it used to be red, and it used to be blonde. Truth is, her hair changes color all the time. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. Well, I'm staring at her shoulder, but it's not what I see when I hear two fellas fighting in the booth across from me. So I wipe away the ashes from an empty counter seat, and I wished I wasn't homesick, I wish I was asleep. Well, I hold her like a blanket up against my chin, and I need her like I need another pack of chewing gum.